All right, everybody, welcome to part 2 of our mushroom ragu video. We're going to make some noodles. So there's a few important steps to the process here. We want to remember that these are all techniques that are going to be relative to your workspace and your experience with pasta. So be patient with it, have fun with it. Know that the first time you make it, it's going to be a very unsure process, but as you do it more and more, it's going to become very easy. And then you'll be able to experiment with different flours, different fillings, different ways to flavor your pasta. So Chef Chris is going to be our hand model for this demonstration. He's going to make this by hand. You could also do it in a KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook attachment. A little bit of history behind noodles. They weren't always indigenous to Italy. It actually came from China through trade along with tomatoes. They didn't come from China, but they came from South America, and it was something that didn't exist in Italy before the 17th century, but now it's something that you would never know that Italians didn't eat marinara sauce and pasta growing up. Now, this is a professional kitchen, so it may seem a little intimidating, but this is a process that grandmothers and families and everybody has done for, hundreds of years. So keep in mind that while it may take you a little bit of time the first time to make it, this is something that becomes very routine and very fun to make. Your dough is going to reach this shaggy stage where you may feel like it's like your life. It's kind of crumbling. It's not ever going to come together. It will come together, and it's going to come together beautifully and be elastic, and it's going to be delicious. So your dough is going to kind of fall apart. It's going to be all over the place, but you want to start with an area, if it's a countertop or a wooden cutting board, with a place that actually you've cleaned, and then you don't mind it being a little bit dirty, because by the end of it, you should be able to roll all the bits of dough into the main dough ball, but you're going to have to do a little scrubbing afterwards. So just make sure you have a clean area. I prefer a marble countertop or something that is cool and non-porous, something that's easy to get all the little bits and pieces off of. So with this recipe, we've given you some home ingredients that you should just have on hand, some all-purpose flour, some eggs, and olive oil and salt. Now the restaurant style one uses a 00 flour, which is a finer grind on the flour, and then egg yolks. So you want to separate your egg yolks and keep your egg whites separate, and then using a little bit of olive oil to flavor. It's a very delicious dough. It's very rich. It's got a good elasticity to it. It's a very defined flavor, and it's very luxurious. It does cost a little bit more to make because you're just using egg yolks and a higher quality flour. Now, as far as flours and eggs, your dough is going to taste exactly like what you make it out of. So if it's just run-of-the-mill things, it's not going to have much there. It's just going to taste like whatever your sauce is. But if you're using heirloom flours, you can use chestnut, you can use corn flour, rye flour, whole wheat. You can get stuff from Anson Mills, which is a mill over in South Carolina. But some really easy stuff is King Arthur flour, the unbleached, unbromated flour that's available at Kroger and Publix. Has really good flavor to it. As far as eggs, I'd recommend getting free-range eggs, something that's got a really nice orange yolk to it. And then your olive oil, you want to get something that's extra virgin and fruity and has some defined flavor to it. Chef Chris has cut the dough ball in half. He sheeted it out to about a 1/4 inch thickness, and he's only using half of the dough to start. We're going to use it on the smooth roller, and he's going to roll it through. Once he's got it to the thickness that he wants, he's going to start walking it down step by step. And I mean, he's going to go from setting 5 to setting 4 to setting 3 until he gets to the desired thickness of the dough. Then we're going to switch over to the fettuccine attachment. You can use whatever attachment you like, or you can extrude it through something that pushes the dough out and cuts it into spaghetti or bucatini or fun shapes like campanelle. But right here, we're just going to use fettuccine for ease. One of the big things that a lot of people ask is, can I make this without eggs? And you can. You can just use olive oil, salt, a little bit of water, and flour. It's going to be a totally different texture. It'll be more like a ramen noodle almost, and it'll be a little bit chewier. But the eggs add a lot of silkiness to it and a lot of flavor. How is fresh pasta different cooking than store-bought dried pasta? It's going to be much quicker. It's going to be basically drop it in your salted water, about a minute and a half cooking. You always want to finish it in the pan because it's way less forgiving. I personally like dried pasta like bucatini if I'm going to eat something that's got a really nice brothy sauce to it. The reason we chose this kind of pasta, the more delicate and the wider noodles, is because it picks up the mushrooms as you eat it. So it's really fun. If you're going to store your pasta for later, you want to make sure that you either dry it on a rack, or you go ahead and portion it, toss it with some semolina flour like we're doing here, and then freezing it. Freeze it if you're going to hold it for longer than 2 days, and if you're not going to hold it for longer than 2 days, you want to put it on a tray. It's got a little bit of airflow, lightly covered with saran wrap, and then that way it doesn't dry out, but it also doesn't get super moist. Now, Chef Chris here has put a little semolina flour on it, and that's our finished product. We're going to go cook this pasta. Thank you very much for watching.